Hey guys, good evening. If you hear me, give me a thumbs up on the chat before I continue. Thank you for everyone who's joining us for tonight. Yes, solo flight. It's a different change of pace for most of us, or at least for me, because I am actually in a studio. I am in my home studio here, where we mostly sometimes produce, and this is where we take off during our coverages. Please sound off in the chat if you can hear me properly, except for the few seconds that I missed putting up my microphone. Saying hello to Keanu is actually joining us. Keanu Dominado of, I don't know the entire, hindi ko memorize Keanu, but yeah. Thank you for joining. Hi, Sir June. Thank you for joining tonight. A couple of people also. If you're watching and, just having a slow Monday night. Hopefully, you're in for a little bit of learning for tonight. Now, we're starting this series of really teaching and sharing to people how to, put more live streams, and we really want to do that. Anyway, so yeah, hi Gabrielle. Thank you. Very clear. Thank you for dropping by. Hopefully the latency is not that bad so that we can have a better interaction for tonight. So rewind a bit, and yes, welcome to our online information session on how to prepare your sports event for live streaming. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. And yeah, a little bit of introduction. If you don't know me, my name is Glenn Lopez. I am the founder, director, and technical producer for Upstream Sports TV. Essentially, it's difficult to be the producer and also the host of your own show. So, essentially, Upstream Sports TV is an online media channel that covers emerging sports through live streaming, broadcasts, and video content production. We've been around as an online media channel for over a year now, since March 22 officially. But when sports started to pick up again, that is when we through with the idea. But we've been producing live streams and have been doing a lot of events since around 2017. And our vision is that we'll be able to cover the development stories and wins of future world champions and Olympians. And very timely, it's because, excuse me, it's actually the SEA Games. And we've been quite kind of involved with some of the sports. And it's interesting that, if you imagine actually discovering some of our competitors or our athletes and competing in the world stage, and just, finding those people, those same people being covered by grassroots competition and by just joining the grassroots competition, it's pretty amazing to actually see that. No, so sound off in the chat. Why are you here? Or what's your name? Or what's your nickname? Or what are you most looking forward to? But yeah, Upstream Sports TV is essentially an online media channel. We're not just a production company, but definitely we are here to work with you, not necessarily to work for you, but to work hand in hand with whatever with media work, essentially, for sports. No, so in order for us to possibly fully realize that vision, we have to start, like in most sports programs, at the grassroots level or with the basics. So essentially, excuse me, kind of sick right now, but hopefully I can power through. This session is how to prepare your sports event for live streaming. We can actually dive into the technical details later, but more importantly, I'd like to share with you, especially for those organizers who are looking into just bringing in live streaming, and it's not easy. I mean, when you talk about technical officials, when you talk about all the rules, definitely it's something that you have to consider all the time, especially just keeping the integrity of the sport. And what's more important is that when that integrity is actually covered, it's actually pretty consistent. No, so uh, maybe just continuing with introductions. We've worked with these organizations, NSAs. Let me just remove my face over here. We have the Philippine Flying Disc Association. We have Philippine Swimming, Rugby, Obstacle Course, and a couple of many frisbee or on flying disc tournaments in and around Metro Manila and around the country even. No, so I actually started to appreciate a lot of the hard work of athletes, especially when we started moving around and just trying to figure out, how to fly our team so that we can cover the events, but more importantly, how do these athletes do it and actually fly and jet lag and all and being and adjusting to new climates and so on and so forth. No, so a little bit of background as well. Let me just remove this. Our broadcast capabilities would include multi-camera setups, graphics, video playback, instant replay system, and we stream to our content to any platform accepting standard protocols, which is a bit technical on that side. And more importantly, aside from just from being a production partner, we actually try to create auxiliary content to augment and to add to excuse me, to add to the coverage. That's how you view that. I mean, there's a lot of waiting time in between competitions, and some people will actually you just have a second or two to catch their attention. Um, and moving forward, a number of our features as well. We do have our own scoreboard timers, game schedule, our we make sure that we have data integration. We had music, commentator headsets, and natural sound. And here, just see a couple of screenshots of the layouts that we have so far that we've worked on. excuse, excuse me. Stay safe, guys, and stay healthy. Hopefully, you are okay. We are pretty excited about just sharing with you these screens, and it's always nice to actually see a lot of these photos, and we see where we've grown so far. So before I continue, I'll just read from Gabriel from PSC. Hi, welcome again. Thank you for joining for tonight. In charge kami ng projects for women in sports, and we know that current trend is to reach out to social media, and so we are hoping to live stream our sports and to the public. So this kind of online information session would really be helpful. And I was just looking at, or we were just watching off YouTube earlier. We were just watching how Jamie Lim actually won her event earlier, and in the event, and that particular sport actually just lasted for around, I think, 3 minutes at most. So if you think about it, there's a lot of waiting in between, but also there's a lot of patience involved, and the athletes actually have to have that mindset, a ready mindset whenever they are competing. So, of course, before we talk about, I mean, the first things first, and let me just drink water very quickly. Okay, so first things first. Again, we've been around since 2022, and one of the gaps that we've seen so far is that there are a lot of athletes that are not being covered, or that are not prioritized, or uh, not prioritized in terms of coverage, because it's a bit costly to do live streaming. No, so let me just go through maybe the obvious things about live streaming that is that is advantageous for live streaming. So first of all, this is what I tell most people. It's that it's actually full video documentation. It's not just live streaming. And when you have that full video documentation, this is the video material that can be referred to by players, by coaches, by the audience, and even by technical officials to review and eventually improve. Players can actually review their plays, how they played, how they fought. The technical officials can review how the officials during the match, or during a match, was actually conducted, and even audiences, and I think that's one of the things that is very big right now, and I think Gabriel has that right mindset. When something happens, as much as possible, you want to deliver it as fast as possible to the audience, and you have to be first. A couple of things about that later on. No, so next, the second advantage would be having or catching the action as it happens. For all we know, and I'm sure for your experiences as well, it's pretty difficult to watch a full game if you're not watching live, or if it's not unfolding. There's a tendency for us to just double tap the screen and then just skip. But if it's happening, if you caught the action as it happens, there is a feeling of also being invested, and you don't know what's going to come next, and it's just exciting when we're able to watch that. No, so almost always all the time, live is actually better than recorded or post. When you watch it after. Another advantage would actually be these are easily shareable through, of course, number one, sharing the live link or eventually clipping the live stream to share some of the player highlights, some of the highlights of the game. One of the things that happen most of the time with Ultimate is that whenever there are tournaments that are a bit muddy or a bit, the field is actually muddy. We've tried this. One of the clips that we've shared is that, a face plant on the pitch. It's fun, and it went a bit viral, or at least in the numbers of within this community. But it's also the way to reach the community faster if you have those pieces of content available as soon as it happens, and it's easily shareable. And correct me if I'm wrong. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you are the type, or if you know how to use the screen recording feature of your phone. It's the easiest way to quote unquote steal these video content and this video content. And it's just, it's very easily shareable. Well, another advantage of having live streaming is that, you know, because there is already content which covers my other point earlier, the sport can actually reach new audiences, or at least the current audiences, wider, and potential players through shares and likes. No, so whenever a highlight, whenever a high, what's another term? A highlight is actually presented as a shorter clip. The term is, or at least the keyword there is, it becomes very digestible for you as a viewer, or for viewers, so that they just know easily what they're looking at, and it's an amazing moment during that competition. So you expand your reach with your videos and your content, and then down the line, of course, potential revenue. Live streams can also be revenue generating, since this already holds the attention of specific audiences. And this is something that I've currently really believed so far, is that a lot of sports have their tight-knit communities. And more importantly, there are a lot of memes that actually come out. And having this tight-knit community, even if it's not necessarily like mainstream audiences, tens of thousands of people, if you have those, if you know the idea of 1,000 through fans, then you know that these are the people that would make it sustainable for you as well. And also down the line, because of the idea of being sustainable, this can be in the form of advertising, partnership with brands, or possible ticket sales in the future. It's still different, or the experience is still different for you to watch over live stream versus to watch video over your phone, on your phone or your TV, versus watching it live, right? So, is my stream okay? Yeah, my stream is okay. Excuse me. So, aside from the advantages of live streaming, of course, on the flip side, you have the challenges of live streaming. Probably why the reason why you are actually around. And let's just address the elephant in the room, which is literally one of my co-hosts here. I will introduce to you later. The elephant in the room is that live streaming is costly. I mean, if you think about how much a photographer would cost, or a videographer to create a highlights video would cost, think about, then also consider that the spend on live stream production is actually a bit costly. But think about it this way: the spend on running sports events can easily be overtaken by the production of live streams or videos. So if you are already thinking about, oh, it's already very expensive to run a certain event, more importantly, after all, spending on media is one of the bigger ways to collect more attention and eyeballs to your sports. it's kind of a chicken and egg problem. You want to improve your product first, but you want to also gain traction and you want to gain reach in creating these media around your sporting events. No? And one of the challenges that I already always have is that um, I don't necessarily receive, quote unquote, the biggest of budgets, but because this is the kind of thing that we want to be partners with, then it's something that we really want to consider. Another challenge would actually be logistics. Most of the time, especially for one-day events, time isn't on the side of the organizers because of rental constraints. So moving in bigger teams can be a bit challenging. Aside from logistics, there's also the idea of putting more people as much as possible, putting in as many people as possible to try to solve a problem. But there's a level of diminishing returns when you do that, and it's very difficult if the logistics isn't actually on your side, especially if it's difficult to bring equipment. There are hurdles like security guards being strict, or if you don't have your equipment list with you. No, so these are things that we also need to prepare, and these are also challenges. And then lastly, another challenge, at least as a suggested challenge, is that understanding the sport. Of course, as sports organizers, it's very clear for you already that you know what the competition is, what the competition will be, who will be like the top competitors or athletes for your events. But more importantly, how does that translate? Although production teams are good at the technical aspect of live streaming, they still have to understand the sport in general. And later on, in depth, as this adds to the storytelling aspect of the media and content created. So, a very quick example is that when we try to run replays, when we do replays for Ultimate Frisbee, we actually run around 10 to 12 seconds for the entire goal. But when we run replay for beach volleyball, we actually just clip 2 to 4 seconds and then play that back and be in time for the next service of the game. And that's pretty challenging. And if we are not able to understand that we only have that much time, trust me, you don't want to be on the bad side of your viewers. No. So, and those are the challenges. But definitely for me, the advantages outweigh the challenges. It just takes a bit of work and commitment to the stakeholders involved, especially organizers. And most of the time, organizers are actually a team. A team of people who are very passionate about the sport, about the event that they're organizing, and that they just essentially want people to have fun and want to be people to be competitive and raise the level of competition. That's what I always hear with sports event organizers. In that way, no. So, okay. So now you want a live stream for your sports event, and how do we prepare for it? Most of the time, at least logistically for us, we just need to first secure the date, know when, where, and how to get there. When will it be? Where will it be? Because this will have implications on the costs later on. But in order to understand what to prepare and like a measure of success in a way, or at least a measure to which what will be a successful live stream. Excuse me. Well, first of all, let me just tell you about this. A good live stream is number one. A good live stream presents various angles and points of view. Most of the time, it is multi-camera. Although it's possible to just have one camera, it doesn't tell the entire picture. It doesn't show the entire story. A good live stream, a good sports live stream, also presents data or information about what is being presented, which is graphics, your score, number of fouls, the time, and so on and so forth. a good live stream is is a live stream that sounds good with natural or ambient sound, and you try to, as much as possible, remove people who are discussing in the background. And uh, and this comes in the form of ambient sounds when you're trying to capture natural sound on the ground. But more importantly, sound can actually have storytellers or commentators, no, if they're available as audio. Uh, and a good sports live stream for me is a non-negotiable is that it has to have replay. It has to recap plays and key moments in the game, and it's not just for entertainment, but also just, did you see that correctly? Did the officials see those moments correctly? In order for them to create better decisions. And lastly, a good sports live stream, or a good live stream in general, is actually consistent and stable. There's a continuous stream of audio and video, and of course, as much as possible, you don't want the moment to cut out when you have bad internet. And of course, there are several ways of solving that. No, so let me go through this questions, or at least let me go through these key points to prepare. Number one is that, key points to prepare. So logistics, coordination, expected challenges. There's homework to prepare for and opportunities for the future. Okay, so number one, it's not easy. Logistics in terms of like live streaming, although it's very possible that we have teams that commute or at least take public transportation, it's pretty clear that one to two vehicles is actually a minimum. You've probably seen out of broadcast or OB vans out during bigger sports events. And yes, it takes a lot of manpower, or it takes a lot of space to move a lot of equipment from one place to another. Yes, parking is something that you have to prepare because you don't want the team to carry equipment or heavy equipment from point A to point B that is pretty far from each other. And if you have endorsements, what's this? Car passes, equipment lists. These are all things that have to be prepared for the events, for logistics. Of course, you have to consider that you have to have space for the main camera, since not all venues are actually coverage ready, or at least I think most venues in the Philippines are not ready for coverages, or at least not ready for media. It's always the cherry on top. But as much as possible, consider that there will be space for a main camera and also other additional cameras if applicable. And this is also in coordination with excuse me. This is also in coordination with organizers, where as much as possible, you know where the cameras would actually be placed versus cameras that shouldn't be there in the first place, or if tripods are applicable, or if what's this, or if power is actually not available. No, which brings to the third bullet point, or the other bullet point, is that there should be access to power outlets. Although there are solutions for generators, generating electricity with generators, generator sets, and whatnot. Of course, it adds to the cost, but as much as possible, you want to know where the outlets are. And the production area is, I'll show you a couple of photos later. The production area should be at least a bit spacious because we'll be carrying those hard cases. But also, it's important to have space for the computer, and also not changing lenses, like setting up the cameras, setting up the streaming booth, and so on and so forth. No. So, and then, of course, at least for us, or at least something that you have to consider, is that manpower. Although it's very possible to do a one-man show, and two people, I've seen it happen, and I've seen it not necessarily be an enjoyous thing, especially if you have to cover like 1.5 hour games throughout the day, so that's a bit tiring as well. But definitely manpower, and consider that these are for food, meals, and water. And yes, this is still part of logistics it slash HR. No, excuse me. Okay, next, coordination. Aside from coordinating the logistics, it's important for us as um, production people to actually have an idea of what will happen throughout the day, aside from the the competition proper. We have to know if you will be running opening ceremonies or awarding or an oath of sportsmanship, and so on and so forth. Because we also have to be ready on a technical level if we will be coordinating with the the sound system, if they are working with, if we are working with them for the microphones and so on and so forth. Some of the other thing is that, well, a rule of thumb for the expected time of start of first game and end of last game is that, or at least think about the start of the live stream, and then a rule of thumb would actually be having around 3 to 4 hours before that start. The fourth hour, or at least the first hour, when we arrive, we're just figuring out how to bring down the equipment and where to bring them. And then the second hour would be, moving them and so on and so forth, and then setting up and troubleshooting. And we have to know also, at least in the most human way possible, is that what are the expected breaks and time for crew rests and meals, if there's any. Like, for example, can we actually not run 3 or 4 cameras throughout the day? Can we conserve our energy so that we have enough, still have enough energy at the end of the day to cover the championship? There are certain compromises that can be done, that can be considered in that way. Game schedules throughout the day, especially if there are ones that are dependent on the results of the other games. One tool that we actually use, aside from just communicating, is Messenger. But more importantly, we're trying to be a bit more high tech. We're trying to bring in this is something that I really appreciate from other organizers, if internet is available, is that we have a Google Sheet where they just update the tournament deck, or the tournament schedule, and then we're able to refer there as a production to know what will be the next game. And then we just need to follow up in person when we have those. And yes, 1 day or 2 day tournaments can have a lot of moving parts, especially when figuring out what would be the next game or who will be the next competitors. Okay, before I continue, Keanu says, from the Digital Motorsports Group, I'm an events organizer, and currently I'm looking into ways to grow the reach and awareness of sim racing and digital motorsports through a plethora of live stream event and improve production quality. My team lacks the highlights and instant replays to share iconic moments of the events, as I am busy running the event. Yeah, actually, Keanu, one of the things that you can do is just think about clipping those highlights for later. You don't have to clip the entire race. I think one idea is that you can clip per race if it was an exciting race and then re-upload it at a later time, or clip the overtakes, the nice drifts, and so on and so forth, and create a highlights video from the live stream coverage. And I will be discussing that later on as well, because that's part of the planning already post event. No, hopefully that was helpful for you. Okay, so coming from logistics and then coordination, and then let's talk about expected challenges. No, if you're preparing for your event, of course, some events are outdoor, some events are indoor. It's very important to consider that the weather is a big factor when you are doing these events. Not just for us, but also for your marshals, for people who are playing, and people who are participating. Also have to consider the temperature, the sun, the rain, the snow, maybe. And it's also because we've been really what's this? We've been really diving into like whole day events, because it's advantageous for us, the setup, and the teardown is actually the same for one game versus 10 games or 8 games. Um, we have to consider that covering an event for more than 7 hours, if there are no chairs available for our camera operators to sit on, or there are no umbrellas for us to cover us from the weather, it becomes difficult throughout the day. And then another challenge is actually, well, investing. And I think this is one of the aspects that you cannot necessarily or easily prepare for. Or, sorry, what's this? You can prepare for it, but of course, it takes a lot of time. No? So, investing in terms of effort and finances, that's always a challenge, but we have a couple of solutions for that one as well. But always look at, or at least the way that I view it, the advantages will always be more, the advantages will still be a lot better or greater than the challenges that come from preparing your event for a live stream. Okay. Okay. So also part of the homework for us as the live streams team is that we have to prepare. We have to pack our equipment. We have to put it in our hard cases and bags. We have to figure out how to put them in our cars and vehicles, and we have to figure out how early or how early should we leave, and how late can we actually uh, tear down and come home after the event. So it's not necessarily just one person, although I'm trying to figure this out. It's not necessarily just one person attempting to bring a backpack and a camera and a tripod and then just figuring out within 1 hour and then having a good product. No, if you've seen some of the, let me run the, hold on, let me run the demo reel on the side. Where is it? So if you will notice here, can I cut myself? No. Okay. If you will notice here, a lot of these elements, these graphics elements, the stinger, the bug, these are things that we have to prepare ahead of time. Although we have templated it already for upstream as much as possible. Uh, Even the scoreboards and just understanding um, a lot of these sports and figuring out what would be a presentable way of showing these scoreboards, timers, and so on and so forth. No, because these are stories that have to be presented throughout the day. Okay, let me just stinger back to myself. There we go. So a lot of it is actually learning. Sorry. A lot of it is actually learning the sport or the game and learning how the rhythm actually goes. And mind you that, for example, professional football or soccer, the pace of that is very different from the pace of a Sunday league game or a smaller tournament that have limited amount of time, that has limited amount of time at the venue. No, so there's always those aspects to learn, so that eventually it will lead to storytelling. And of course, in the same way that athletes train and rehearse and do it over and over again, of course, training the right way or training the right things, when we're able to do that, it leads to repeatability for us as well. Because once we understand the game and once we understand how things actually work, we can minimize the amount of setup that we do, and then we'll still have a good what's this? We'll still have a good coverage. No, so there's always a learning curve, much like when people start with new sports. Okay, let me just read this very quickly. One of the problems we encountered actually was the heat during the live streaming of obstacle course. The cameras we set up keeps losing the live feed because they overheat. Yes, correct. What's this? Obstacle course being under the sun and that the obstacles and the structures themselves actually have heat on them. You have to consider that the heat gets transferred to the camera as well. No? So there's also that idea. But of course, the way that we countered that is we prepared, if it's just possible for you, we prepared as many cameras as we can. Uh, either and These are unmanned cameras, so that even if, let's say for example, the manned cameras are actually down or the unmanned cameras are actually down, there are still manned cameras that follow the action. So it's a what's this? It's a matter of priority as well. No. So yeah, that's the homework. This homework, aside from preparing, and it's something that I get excited a lot about, is that when we're trying to cover a new sport, I actually try to watch the World Cups, or at least the World Championship level events, so that I know down the line, oh, this will be the height, or this will be the best way to cover it. And if we can hit, if you aim for the stars, uh, am I saying it correctly? If aim for the stars, if you land in the moon or something like that, you don't really land on the ground, but rather you still have a baseline, or a good baseline of how to present things in your live stream. No, so that's for the homework. So it takes a lot of time. We don't. It's not a matter of us just showing up. I'm a nerd myself. That's why I'm a technical producer for live streams, and I like looking at technology and trying to solve my problems, at least coverage problems, through technology as well. There are a good number of technologies that are available right now. Some do cost more, but one thing that I really haven't cracked is information in terms of like uh, programming certain things so that you can capture the actual times and data of what's this data collection software for certain events. No, so if we're able to integrate that, I think we have a better way of presenting information on the live streams or broadcast. No, okay, going back to my slides. Of course, we're still talking about how to prepare a sports event for live streaming. We also have to prepare for, of course, aside from just having your live stream, we have to prepare for these opportunities. And these opportunities include engaging the sports and specific sports communities better. Like, for example, I think very specific to swimming, swimming has the very clear idea of the time doesn't lie. That the timing systems don't lie, and that whatever the time is there, that is the actual time for the swimmer. But more importantly, when you think about it, or at least for the coaches, they probably observe this during the swim already. When they have the live streams or when they have the videos, they're able to watch the actual swims of their athletes, and just to review it. What's It doesn't it's not a disadvantage to actually have more material to review, but of course just knowing what the materials to be reviewed on, and of course that's a collaboration between the coaches and the athletes already. um and of course having those pieces of content, I think I remember this very distinctly from our last swimming events, when someone breaks a record, a national record, a personal best. uh the tendency is for those videos, when they actually are shared as quickly as possible, they're able to tell more people about what happened and show to more people what happened. Not just tell, but show that this actually happened. Especially for, I'll use another example from Ultimate, or at least for every other sport there is. If the point was actually scored at the last second, the buzzer beater, almost always it becomes viral. Well, of course, for basketball, sometimes it's the special moves, it's the cool moves that is actually a bit uh, more engaging with the viewers. But more importantly, when you have those moments and we're able to share it, then it becomes a way to engage the communities better. No, so another opportunity is for people to actually create interest with new possible players, which is grassroots, of course. I think, and I have a feeling that the coolest moments are the ones that gather the most attention. But more importantly, if you're not able to share those moments, then it's difficult. It's difficult to watch a 90-minute football match for the the non-hardcore fans, but it's very possible to watch what's this? How long? A 2-minute video of the highlights of a match, especially if it's one or two goals only, right? No, so uh, yeah. And then lastly, an opportunity that you have to be ready for is that it's revenue generation, it's advertising, it's corporate partnerships, it's government support. Uh, it's very clear that when you have your media work done for you, then you're able to present or you're able to show other people on what happened, how are you training, what happened in the competition, and it's very clear that the competition happened, and this is the standing of the athlete, and you can invite more support for that one. Okay, yeah. Hi, Chad. Thank you for dropping by. Yes, more of this. This one of the few videos for the series. Gab says information is very important, especially for combat sports, kasi you can highlight how important match by giving the proper introduction of the athletes. Correct. The names actually matter. And we're very scared most of the time. And I think we've made a couple of boo-boos from before that our IOC, our International Olympic Codes, were actually incorrect for the SEA Games. So we heard it from the chat. And that's part of the homework that we have to have. Kung nag-SEA Games na ba, kung umabot na sa Asian Games, or kung from what LGU nagbibigay kulay sa competition itself. Yeah, definitely. Agree, Gabriel. It's very important to know those details. If they were former gold medalists, if they were the gold medalists or the winners, champions from the previous year, that's a very important thing. So, I have actually reached the end of this short presentation. Again, key points to prepare for: logistics, coordination, expected challenges, homework for us as production, but also for the organizing body, and also opportunities that you have to prepare for down the line. Excuse me. Excuse about that. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you have questions, let me know in the chat, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them. And I think I've prepared a couple of questions for you guys. I planted questions for my presentation so that I can help you out more. Okay. Sige, I'll start with this question. So I'll just jump through these questions. No? For me, or at least the question is, how I do stream or recommend YouTube over Facebook? Well, these are the points that I want to raise. Is that number one, video quality is higher, at least from experience. Video quality is higher on YouTube. In case of stream interruptions, it's easier to recover over on YouTube. There's no 8-hour limit. You can just continue streaming. It's easily watchable on TV, and that's an insight that we got all over the world, um, in the region. It's easier to watch over on TV as long as you have the link and it's easily searchable. And it's possible to do chapter marking on the live stream. And if you were watching live streams in the earlier days of Facebook, there was a time that if you were rewinding the video, it was difficult. It took a lot of time for it to reset, or at least to load the specific moments. Okay. Okay. I think another question would actually be, can you, as organizers, create content of the live stream? Of course. I think that is a point for Keanu. Yes. After you stream, just make sure that you have a high quality local recording, and just make sure that you can edit that at a later time. Okay, I have another question here for from Gabriel. In that case, I think this is regarding the YouTube over Facebook. In that case, sir, would you suggest na better ang highlights for social media intern? For me, it is. Um, I did it this way for one of the tournaments, which we have a vlog over on Upstream Sports TV on YouTube. What I did was I was streaming the whole day on over on YouTube, just because when Facebook disconnects, the link is actually more difficult to get. At least for me, it's easier to pass on one single link to other people when you recover. That's number one. And then number two, the highlights. So what I did during that coverage during Love Ultimate was that the highlights, at least video clips, individual video clips. I created those highlight clips as the games were going on, and then I post it over on Facebook. So it becomes a strategy as well. No, so you run your stream over on what platform, and then you keep on creating highlights clips over on another and uploading it them there. Highlights in terms of like kunwari, fight highlights, you still upload it to YouTube. You can create the small clips of highlights over on Twitter as well, so that and everything, all of those efforts become a library down the line. So there's a bit of strategy there. And yes, hi Miss Karen, thank you for thank you for the 1,000 stars. I wish I was the playing games and just excuse me, playing Valorant and then receiving the 1,000 stars. But definitely, it's something that we really appreciate here on Upstream Sports TV, and we're gonna work again very soon. Okay. Hopefully, I answered that question, Gab. And thank you again, Ma'am Karen, for dropping by and sending over 1,000 stars with the dragon, with the dragon sticker on the chat. Okay. Um, I have another FAQ, commonly asked question or frequently asked question to me. How much and why is the investment cost? I phrased it that way because um, in the way that I presented, or at least in the way that I explained it earlier, it's not simply buying a camera, buying an HDMI cable, and putting everything together. There's a lot of thought in it, and I'm thankful that a lot of our team has a background on events, no, and not necessarily broadcast. At least we built that experience over on broadcast already. But right now, if you have an events background, you don't like dead air. And if you're able to fill in the dead air with things that will guide the viewer on what will happen next. And I like this very much with esports competitions or with esports broadcasts. They always know when and where to put a timer so that they will be able to show if they're starting or not, if they're starting soon or not yet. But more importantly, before I answer this question, for esports, there's the idea of broadcast first, competition comes second, versus other sports where it's the competition runs alongside, or at least the competition runs throughout the day, and the broadcast team just has to react to whatever is being presented there already. So in that way, what's the difference? One, if the competition leads the broadcast, then the broadcast team has to just react to whatever's being presented to them and be ready for whatever will be coming next. If the broadcast leads and the competition comes after, there's a lot more waiting time in between. But more importantly, you know that you're able to cover a lot of the broadcast points that you need to hit when you are doing your broadcast for when you are doing broadcast first and the competition is actually part of that program already. Okay. So, investment cost. So, learning those things and having those things, and I think it's not necessarily uh not necessarily an easy thing, and that comes with a lot of experience. But in terms of investment, think of it this way: if you're gonna feed 3 to 4 people, breakfast food, lunch food, snacks, dinner, if you're ending late, and water, how much transportation will be there? Will be airfare, fuel, toll, parking, and operating expenses for the production, which will be, I think, hopefully, which will be around between 75 and 25,000 pesos, at least locally. That's how we view it. Um, and that's just a ballpark figure. It depends on the complexity of the production as well. So think about it. There's a bigger thinking behind the things that are being prepared technical on a technical level versus just showing up with a camera and laptop that you can stream with and 5G internet and just making sure that everything works. It's very tiring to troubleshoot the whole day versus just going through the day with a peace of mind that everything just works properly. Okay. Okay. Um where's the other question? Okay. I forgot to put in the other question. Actually, one of the things that I'm not sure if you've noticed already is that uh, why do you not allow sponsors logos on your live stream? For us, because it will look cluttered. Our running joke, I hope I don't offend anyone at this point, uh, or at least no offense for other people, but when you have your sponsors logos on the stream, even during games, we joke about it, calling it ano yun, live stream, sponsor na may konting live stream. So it's just too cluttered. Um, and as much as possible, we want to put a premium on partner placements so that a replay tag will just be a replay tag, a scoreboard tag will actually just be a scoreboard tag, a highlights tag would just be highlights tag. No, so we don't want to overshadow your event with sponsors logos as much as possible. uh okay. Question, Gabriel. Have Upstream worked with the government before? Not yet. At least not officially yet, but I'd like to talk to you about it on the side later on. No, so just PM about that. And then lastly, I think just this other question. Um, and I'm not sure if a lot of you noticed already. Why can't we just stream directly to our page or channel? One of the reasons why is that, or at least one of the biggest reasons why, is that we want to develop a working partnership with you more than just being a service provider. Because we are also a platform that would hopefully promote your sport and sports event to other players as well. No, it's possible to multi-stream. I mean, it's technically possible to multi-stream to the event page, to upstream page, upstream sports TV page, and so on and so forth. But if we do that, then only one platform grows, or at least only one channel grows. But more importantly, and I'm not sure if this is the type for you also, is that a lot of Facebook pages or Instagram profiles actually don't have content outside of the season. No, so if, for example, a media platform, actually has a lot of content throughout the year, and we're crossing fingers that will be that kind of platform down the line, then we're able to continuously create bridges and create connections between sports and sports communities, and hopefully down the line become an archive also, and and see where world champions actually came from. No, And with that, I think I just reiterated the vision of Upstream Sports TV. But definitely and hopefully, I was able to share with you uh, what are the things for you and how to prepare your sports event for live streaming. I didn't really dabble in the technicals, but hopefully, these are things that you would also consider. Why does it cost so much? Because the investment will be like this. And there's a lot of thinking regarding all of these things. No? So, yeah, I'd like to thank everyone who has worked with us so far, of course, uh, and who joined this live stream. And this is where we all learned, and hopefully, we'll also learn down the line and just understand. And, we'll be partners and in working together towards growing our sports and our sports communities and our sports content throughout. And also just do this for the country, of course. Yeah, maybe for the next SEA Games, we'll actually see some of the content coming from Upstream Sports TV already. That's the dream. And with that, thanks everyone for joining tonight. And hopefully, we'll have another online information session. Just comment below or at least send us a PM if you have events. But more importantly, also don't forget to follow us on our Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Instagram, and Twitter. I think we have Twitter already. And we'll see you in the next sporting event. Thanks, guys, and see you around. Bye. Where is my demo reel? And bye.